Here's how to survive Christmas with an eating disorder. Hello, my name is Stephanie. I'm a therapist in Long Island, New York that specializes in the treatment of eating disorders and body image issues. If you like this video at the end or found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in learning more about eating disorders, please consider subscribing. I will be posting 3 times a week. I, for one, cannot believe that Christmas is in less than a week. This year it really snuck up on me, and I feel like it snuck up on a lot of people. But regardless of all of that, eating disorders and holidays don't mix very well. For the last couple of months, I have made videos about Halloween and surviving Halloween with an eating disorder, how to survive Thanksgiving with an eating disorder, and now I want to talk about surviving Christmas and the holiday season with an eating disorder. With eating disorders, it becomes very difficult around the holidays because of a bunch of different factors, really. And for today, I wanted to focus on 3 major factors that impact people with eating disorders around Christmas and the Christmas season. That includes family, food, and routine. Let's start with family. A lot of times around Christmas time and the holidays, whatever you celebrate, whether that's Hanukkah or whatever, people come from all around the country, all around the world to get together around Christmas time. This may include family that you haven't seen in a while. And with this comes a lot of anxiety, especially with people who have eating disorders, whether you are really in your eating disorder or in recovery from an eating disorder. Family coming, especially family that you haven't seen in a while, usually does arouse a lot of anxiety for multiple reasons. So one is that there's a lot of family members don't really have filters. So what you might not say to another person, perhaps grandma doesn't filter that out, and they your family member might be one to comment on your food, maybe one to comment on your body, whether positive or negative. It really doesn't matter, because for an eating disorder, either your eating disorder seems to be happy and your healthy self is unhappy, or vice versa. For an example, let's say you are in recovery from an eating disorder, and as part of your recovery, you needed to restore weight. And that obviously means that there is some weight gain involved in that. So let's say some family member who had felt that you were underweight or losing weight, now is seeing you after your weight restored or restoring weight, and they actually try to compliment you by saying how healthy you look. For someone with an eating disorder, that really just runs rampant in your head. And yes, it sounds like a compliment, and to most people it would be a compliment, but the eating disorder, it perceives healthy as fat. And so that's just one example. So really you could see how it's very easy to just not win. No matter what you're able to do, no matter what you say to someone with an eating disorder, it's very difficult to be able to win in that scenario, because as I talked about in other videos, and I'm going to leave a link in the description below for one, for an eating disorder, there really are 2 parts of yourself, which is one is a healthy self and one is the eating disorder self. So I'm not going to go into that really too much further, because that video will explain all of that, but really that's what I'm trying to get at, is that it's very difficult to win when talking to someone with an eating disorder in that sense. So that's why we want to just stay away from food talk, and you want to stay away from body talk. What does it mean for you if you are suffering with an eating disorder? So I would say be as prepared as possible. I'm sure you already know the family members who are probably going to be the ones commenting. I would definitely suggest having a family member that is close with that family member. Perhaps if you are underage or you are young, you can have your parent talk to this family member, or a sister, or whoever it is. Talk to this family member, someone who understands. Talking to the family member that might not, and just giving a little bit of education, but also just kindly asking for them to refrain from any type of comments to you about your food, about your body, or refraining from diet talk at the table and such like that, because that could really help. And most family members do want to help, and they don't realize that what they're doing or saying is not helpful or constructive. So let's give them the best chance at being able to be the best support for you by talking to them beforehand. If you feel comfortable doing it, go for it, so that it doesn't have to be a conversation on the actual holiday. The next part that I had mentioned before that really concerns people with eating disorders around the holidays, of course, is food. Food will absolutely look different on Christmas and around Christmas, because usually what happens in our culture, at least, there's so many treats just surrounding us. Treats in terms of, the sweets and the cookies and all of the candy that we like to surround ourselves with around the holidays, and that also just are part of the holidays, as well as the meals. You might have a big Christmas breakfast along with a Christmas dinner, a big Christmas dinner, at least what you perceive to be big, and it probably is a little bit bigger than what you normally would. So how do you get through that without really letting your eating disorder win or make it very uncomfortable for you, and where it takes away the joy that you could experience for Christmas and Christmas time? A DBT skill that could be really helpful for this is radical acceptance. If you haven't heard of it, it really is exactly what it says. It just is accepting whatever is. More than likely, if you're with an eating disorder, you're struggling with an eating disorder, you are not in charge of the food choices for Christmas time. So that is something that is not in your hands. And if you are going to participate in the holidays, food is going to be a part of that. So radical acceptance could really help you to just accept that this is how the food situation is for this day or these couple of days, and to also acknowledge that that is okay. You need to remember and understand that Christmas and Christmas time will look different in terms of food. It comes one time a year. It's not something that's going to throw you off completely forever. It's something that we can radically accept, that the food is different, and move on. I would really encourage you to think about your concerns as it pertains to food and everything else for Christmas, and speak to your nutritionist about it and speak to your therapist about it. They could really help you to plan to make sure that you are not only getting your nutritional needs, but that you are able to enjoy the holiday as best you can, even while suffering from an eating disorder or in recovery, because that could be really difficult, and it is really difficult as well. A big rule I want to set forth is whatever you do, as I said before, eating will look different on Christmas. What's so important in recovery is to make sure that you're not compensating for the difference in food. Your body knows what the hell it's doing. It's going to get at the drive of whatever's happening. It's not something that happens every single day. So you do not have to compensate in terms of not eating the next day, or going to the gym an extra hour the next day, or not eating in the morning, or purging, or anything like that. You do not have to compensate. Your body is way more intelligent than you give yourself credit for, and it knows what to do with it, and it'll do its thing. And the other part, the last part that I'll talk about that really throws people with eating disorders off, is the throwing out of your routine. Christmas, obviously, is not going to be a day like any other during the year. It's just very different. Stores are closed. I mean, anything that you could think of, it's just totally different than every other day of the year. So it's something that's really hard, especially when you struggle with an eating disorder, because typically your routine is very near and dear to you. It is to all of us. We're creatures of habit. But what's really important is to be flexible, and knowing that food is going to look different, but also, more than likely, if you typically go to the gym every day or whatever it is, or on the weekdays, that's when you go to the gym. I know that Christmas this year lands on a Tuesday, so Monday and Tuesday are kind of out of the picture for going to the gym. And these types of changes in our routine could be really anxiety provoking for someone with an eating disorder. You can't really go away and start exercising or doing whatever eating disorder behavior that you typically engage in. And I'm not saying exercise always is that, but it is kind of disordered if you are going to the gym on Christmas Day, because that's just not something that is really within the norm of what a person who has a healthy mindset should be doing, because Christmas typically is a time for family. It's a time for spending time with your family. So it's really important to be flexible with that, and be flexible to, okay, you don't have to hit the gym that day. It's a big part that I want to address in that section, is to be flexible. Flexibility is so important, especially as it pertains to eating disorder recovery. Flexibility is healthy. It leads us to a state of balance, and that is positive and healthy. So I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and please consider subscribing to my channel. I really want to hear from you. What are you most excited for Christmas time or for whatever holiday that you celebrate? Please leave a comment down below. I also have a blog that talks all about this type of information. Feel free to check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. And I wish you lots of joy on your journey to finding your state of balance. Have a great one and have a Merry Christmas. Bye.